Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
We are lighting the candle, a world that works. Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Correll, and I'm blessed to be here today with my unbelievably great partner in empowerment, Jan Jeremias. And the two of us are blessed to have this wonderful new friend for me, older friend for Jan, Stephen Levy. And Steve and Jan have just collaborated on a book that we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about today. And in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to make a special opportunity over the next 4 podcasts to have different authors come on and tell us a little bit about their life's experience and what they shared in their books or anything else that they want to talk about, because that's what we do here. So the rules, just for you, Steve, because this is your first time on our podcast, there are no rules, okay? We would like a little decorum and kindness and that sort of thing, but in terms of what we can talk about, it all leads back to empowerment one way or the other. So I think with that said, Jan, is there a different introduction that you'd like to do about Steve, because you know him so much better than I do?
No, I actually love for Steve to introduce Steve. Yeah, because I think that, he's going to bring, he's just a wonderful guy that I've gotten to know over the past, I don't know, probably about a year or two.
Yeah.
And so, we meet each week, hopefully, and we just have conversations similar to what we talk about, Bill, on empowerment, and just about being the best human being possible. And so, yeah. So I'll pass it to Steve and he can tell our audience a little bit about himself.
Perfect.
Well, first, thanks, Jan, for that. And it has been, I must tell you, Bill, it's been just wonderful knowing Jan, and from when we met, it's been incredible. And she's, I think, it brings home that what is it that brings people together? And I think it's that word connection, but true connection. And, it's connection, but then there's a shared value system, or unspoken value system, should I say, that just happens. You can feel it. You don't make it happen. It just happens. And I think that's what happened in our relationship and getting to know each other, just allowing people to be themselves, and respecting each other. That's a big thing for me. So, if I can share a little bit of Stephen, from South Africa, currently in Cape Town, but I was born in a small city called Port Elizabeth. It's about 8 hours from Cape Town if you drive. On the coast, but so we were brought up there, born and bred, school there, went to college, and then left. I come very much from a sporting background as opposed to an academic background, and learned a lot from sport about life, which I took, and business. I think a lot of sporting principles that I could carry with me into business and life itself. From teamwork to what happens is as a team player, how important is it, your role, understanding your role and everybody else's. I think from individual sports, understanding that we can actually sometimes push ourselves a bit further than we think we'll give ourselves credit for. be able to step out of that proverbial comfort zone. It's tough, but I think it shows you that you can do it. Not everybody plays sports, so this is Stephen's perspective view of the world and what informs him. And yeah, I come from a very close family, 2 siblings, 2 wonderful children, 2 wonderful grandchildren, and yeah, very blessed. Just to a wonderful wife. I mustn't leave that out. She's here. She can hear me.
Well,
Better not.
we support you buttering her up in any way possible, Steve.
Could be a question of how long you've been here, excluding tomorrow. So, no, but she is my rock. So yeah, I think, having said all that, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but having said all that, one word that comes to mind is I'm very blessed and grateful for what I have.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I heard blessed and grateful. And those words resonate with me in particular. But I also believe those resonate not only with me, but with Jan and pretty much anyone that we could talk to. We're here today. The folks that are not here today can't say that. So absolutely
100%.
blessed. So let me ask you a little bit more about, before we jump into your book and what you've written about that. Are there any particular things that you brought out of, you say that you were came from a sporting life. Now that means different things to different people sometimes, but I'm interpreting that as you probably played some organized football and some other sports, cricket maybe, who knows what. But the point is that you had an opportunity to have somebody leave an imprint on you as a human being, as well as coach you in the disciplines of playing a sport. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I played rugby, not foot. I played football, but I played rugby more so, of course, as South
A
African.
real man's sport, right?
Yeah. And then, cricket. I played until I stopped playing cricket when I was 55.
Yeah.
I played that a lot longer than you can play rugby for. And then athletics. So I did in my youth was track and cross country, then went on to marathons, ultra marathons, and now I just run to keep fit and healthy.
There you go. Yeah, we do have a little bit in common there. I played a little intramural rugby at the University of Colorado, which was really fun. And I lived in a dormitory that was mostly football players and engineer. I actually was an engineering student. And the guys would all make fun of each other, and we'd say, hey, we know who the real men are. We don't wear pads, and we have no skin on our shins. So
yeah, understand the language.
Yeah. So what was your big takeaway there? Is there a guiding principle that you came out of organized sports with? Something that's kind of in your background message wherever you are or whatever you stand in front of people saying?
Yeah, very much so, Bill. The one real core principle that I live by, I need to say from sport, and that was kind of embedded in me or installed in me, should I say, from my late father. Okay, and he was also a very good sportsman. So it was very much about respecting people in their differences, and I'll tell you how that it's underpinned my life in how I've grown up, and it also underpins my practice, my coaching practice. So it's very much it's built off the core of respecting people in their differences, and it stands even more firm to me in the world today. So I think that's a strong guiding principle for me. The others that I took out of that was discipline, perseverance, persistence. Just giving it your best shot. And while I think as a sportsman you'll know that I'd be surprised if I listen to any sportsman saying they're not competitive. I think it's who they're competitive with, and For me, I think it's very much about competing against yourself, and that the lesson I learned from that was, if you can step away. Of course, we all try and win, whether it's at sport, whether it's in our business. We try and be our best, and we try and do the best we can. So you
Yeah.
can maybe change winning too, but you go for that win. You must. You don't go. I don't think you step onto any field or in any business wanting to come second. Um, but I think it's going in there understanding that if you didn't win, that you tried, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. And if you tried your best, then you're a winner. You can be a winner.
Yes.
It's like failing doesn't make you a failure. Failing, it's just part of life. That's probably where we learn our biggest lessons. Well, I certainly have.
Yeah. That reminds me of an old saying, and I'm not quite sure who said it at the moment, but I shamelessly steal it as many times as possible during the course of the year. And that is that success actually is going from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm.
Wow, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too, because what that conjures up is that when you're not achieving a goal, sometimes achieving the goal is the booby prize because you learn nothing from it.
Yeah.
However, each time you attempt something, in the attempt and the failure is where life really gives you the lessons that you can grow from. And that's what I hear in what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Writing or co-authoring this book with Jan and five other colleagues, very dear colleagues, are actually probably brought that home for me. And having chatted to everybody else, I would be safe to say that I probably do speak on behalf of them. But for me, certainly it highlighted again that where do our greatest lessons come from? Because this is what the book was about.
Yes.
And our own experiences in whichever form, and then what were the lessons from that. And everybody, I must say, it was beautiful. They opened up. We allowed ourselves to open up about ourselves and the lessons that we learned. And there were very few of them that were from successes. They were from challenges, again, in whichever format. And as you correctly said, Bill, I suppose that's where our greatest, not I suppose, that is where our greatest lessons come from. I need to reframe that. It is where our greatest lessons come from. And isn't it strange? It's funny, our fear of failure, that's the place we really fear to go, is where we learn our greatest lessons. It's sort of a question I'm asking myself, why do we fear to go there?
Yeah, we kind of get it reinforced
Excuse
early
me.
on that you're bless you. Public failure is the worst. Personal failure, you can actually step over that, cover it up, hide it a little bit until later on you figure out there's nothing to be gained by that, and that authentically expressing your life in such a way that you embrace the failure. I think that that's what invites other people to show up authentically. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's also something that stood out for me in the book across all our chapters, that everybody kind of stepped into their vulnerability, but they didn't just step into it in terms of using it as a kind of a buzzword or buzz phrase. They actually stepped to everybody owned. Let me rather say that everybody owned their vulnerability,
Yeah.
and we're kind of okay to write about it, and that was also beautiful because we live in this world of, especially on social media, where everything's just wonderful.
Yeah. Jen is
Yeah.
being very gracious and allowing us to get to know each other a little bit better. I really appreciate that she holds me in high enough esteem to introduce me to some of her favorite people on the planet, and she has never steered me wrong. And I've gotten great value, immense value, especially later on. There's one of your country folk who we're going to be interviewing, Taryn, uh, and that was soul touching soul the very first time, and made I feel the same with you. I'm kind of interested if you will step back just a little bit and give us the premise, like when you all started talking about let's collaborate on this work together. What were those conversations like, and what sort of things were you hoping to draw out? And how long did it take you to kind of settle on, like, well, let's see if we can work within this area over here, and can you just give us a little bit of an insight into that, please?
Absolutely. So I'm so happy that you asked that question, because it's so important for people to hear and love to share that with you, Bill, about the background of this, on how this book came to being.
Yep.
And Jan, please, if I leave anything out, please come in and chat. Uh, but I always say, when I tell people about this book, the first thing I say, this thing never ever started off. In fact, the book was the furthest thing from our minds you could think of. We just got together because we had met on a networking group that we were all kind of participants in, and we just joined it every Saturday. And then this led to a couple of us that were on this group meeting on a Monday evening. I don't know why Monday evening, and we just got around chatting about life, and we felt it must have come. And Jan, please help me here. It must have come from just feeling that connection that we had on this networking group, and so it started, and we got together just talking about life and the simplicity of life. And I think we're all in the kind of same age group where we're just talking about, it's a complex world we live in, but does it need to be complex? Can you bring simplicity into the live a simple life in this complex world? And the conversations just continued from there. Based on that conversation is someone said, yeah, we just simply live and live simply. And then I can't tell you who, but somebody picked up on that and then said, is it live simply or simply live? And this led to the name of our group. And then somebody came up with a little, a little flower with 6 petals on. And that was like the emblem for simply live simply. And it was only a while after that, when people started contributing and talking about our own lives, that somebody said, we should actually put this into a book format. I think I got that right, Jan?
Yeah, well, I think that was really it. But the other thing was, we kind of were just trying to debate about where we go with all this. Like, how do we get it out in the world? And how do we share this kind of thing that we all had come to, which we believed was in everybody, if they took a moment to actually reflect that life could be simple. And we said, okay, should we offer a course? Should we go online? Like, we started to navigate that a little bit, and we couldn't figure it out. And then, basically said, well, if we want to get out there and sort of talk about it, like, why don't we write a book? And so we wrote a book. I think the gift to me has been, through those conversations, realizing that there were no physical borders, like, geographically or age wise, for any of our experiences. Each one, like, when they were vulnerable and they shared their story, we were like, oh my gosh, that's happened to me, or that resonates with me. And there was something very unifying about that we were able to, one, feel comfortable enough that we were so vulnerable with each other, but also to realize that we could identify with each other, and how that just enhanced the connection that we felt to each other even further. It was like, all of a sudden, that relationship so deepened because each one of us had experienced some element of something from someone else's story.
Bill, if I may just jump in quickly, is that because, as Jan said, in when you said you enhanced the connection, that's so true, because there was time spent between when we met to the point that we wrote the book, and we're able to have, maybe just before that, able to have the conversations. Their connections were enhanced through trust, because everybody was open. There was that thing called respect of each other, and listening and being curious about each other, and just holding a space for each other without actually having to do so, if that makes it. Just happened. Again, out of respect. So people listened. And so we got to that point of trust where we could actually now advance this and say, okay, and now we can take it into, and then the book was the outcome.
I love the delineation of the steps. the actual causing of that foundation of trust to be built, there's in some people there's an instant trust, and then you can say things that will erode that. In other people, there's a mistrust on hello, and over a repeated period of time, sooner or later they, as you know, as the book says, let you into their secret garden. And all of the joy and all of the humanness and humanity comes from people sharing their gardens with each other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
loving what I'm hearing here. I'm kind of curious. Can you maybe share a little bit about your chapter and what you chose to write about, and how your process for bringing that to words? Because I have a feeling that a lot of it wasn't words until you said it in black and white the first time.
Yeah. It was a lot of thought, a lot of speaking about it, often maybe even awareness of it or recognition of it, but as you correctly say, without really putting it into words, and then start really having a look at what was this all about, and actually reading it. And it also again highlighted the importance of getting thoughts out of our head and putting it onto paper, even if you put it onto paper and put it away. In fact, I do that often now. Is I write it down, get it out of my head, put it on paper, then I'll go back a day or 2 or 3 later when I want to, and I'll read it. And it's amazing. You see it through a different lens.
Yes.
Bill, I think my chapter was pretty much inspired by things that just really played and there are many things that played an important role in my life in terms of pivotal points. So it wasn't easy to narrow it down to the ones that I did, but I narrowed it down to those because I believe those were really a lot good lessons that came out of it. So the first part of my chapter, sorry, was about, came from doing ultra marathon running, and the lessons that came out of that was that, sometimes we can it's about quality, not quantity. And we can sometimes, and that's actually the one thing that it was that section of my chapter and that experience that gave me the idea for the name of my chapter, which was Slow Down to Speed Up. And it was so amped for me, especially in this world. We live in a fast-paced world, and I have to consciously say to myself, just slow down, just take your foot off the pedal a bit. And I do it now more often and more freely because I see the benefit of it, as opposed to just going headstrong or head first into everything that we do. And we do it again unconsciously. I myself do it. So the lessons from that were, that I had taken on the challenge of running an ultra marathon. 90, I'd run 14 kilometers, then 21, and then a standard marathon of 42, and then decided I'm going to run this ultra marathon, which was 90 kilometers in South Africa. And the training for that marathon, there were in hindsight, a lot of lessons that came out of it. And what I did is, first of all, I followed somebody who was really, at the time, he was the king. They called him the king it was the Comrades Marathon in South Africa. They called him the king of Comrades. So, because he had won it 5 times in a row. So I thought, okay, who better to learn from than the best? And so I read his book, and I took a lot of things out of there that I added into my training program. And I stuck to it, and it wasn't easy because I was surrounded by seasoned Comrades runners. And I need to tell you that one of the things, the other goal I had set myself is just not to finish it. I wanted to finish it in 7.5 hours, which would then, it was, if you finished under 7.5 hours, you'd get the silver medal. From 7.5 hours to 11 hours was a bronze medal, and that was the cutoff time for finishing the race, 11 hours. And I was told by my fellow runners, that I'm, and the seasoned comrades runners, that I might be a little bit over ambitious. Setting this goal for myself, especially first time up on my debut. And I thought about that. And I went home and I spoke to my dear wife, and she said to me, if that's your goal, go for it.
Yes.
If you don't make it, at least try. And so I did. And I followed, as I had my own training program that I'd done, and I stuck to it. And then we were flying up to Durban. That's where the comrades started, and actually finished. But we flew up, we stayed in Durban, and on the plane, everybody was comparing notes and how many kilometers everybody had run between January and the end of May. And that's when the worry set in, because everybody had done from 1,800 kilometers upwards, and I'd only done 1,200. And I thought, ooh, maybe I am being ambitious. And, then this kind of imposter syndrome sets in. Am I going to make it? Did I do enough training? And there was just one thing I took with me into that run that I read in this book by the King of Comrades. He said, rather go into the run feeling underprepared than overprepared, or undertrained than overtrained. And I did that. And not because anybody else wasn't prepared. There were 7 of us, but only 2 of us managed to cross the finish line for a silver. And I'm very grateful that I was one of them. Yeah, only 2 of us. And it's not, things happen over a race that long. I was very aware, doesn't matter how prepared you are, anything can happen outside you. You can get a cramp, you get the runs, and you're not going to achieve what you wanted to. But the lesson was that for me was just focus on, and I took that into business, and I focus on quality. It's not always about quantity.
Yeah.
For Stephen, do I do that consistently? The answer is no. Do I do it with more awareness than before? The answer is yes.
I think the interesting part of that too is that no amount of preparation can substitute for an unstoppable force. And I hear that in what you're saying. Yeah.
Sorry, Bill.
Oh, what I said, Stephen, was in my experience, no amount of preparation can ever interfere with an unstoppable force. Your desire to complete and something inside of you was the compass that was directing you, and not the naysayers who said, well, you might be a little bit optimistic on this try because whatever. And you could have listened to that, and you could have been really disempowered that everybody else had done at least 50% more training than you had. But what they didn't have is what's going on in your heart. And I think that's powerful. And I also think that that's something that's coachable. I think everyone has that aspect. And I do think that you and I can connect with people in such a way that we can call that out to play from time to time. And I love what you said, because you win once doesn't mean you win all the time. But if you want to win badly enough, one more time and one more time and one more time until you get that goal accomplished.
Yeah, I think the big thing, Bill, and it's what you said earlier or right now, is just also hits home, because I'm on the firm belief, and I don't know if it was probably influenced by this, but I think even in my younger days at school, that everybody has something unique to offer the world.
Yes.
We just got to, but we haven't unpacked that yet. And we haven't been taught to go that deep and unpack it. So I think it's a journey that everybody needs to go on, because there is so much hidden potential or unused potential lying amongst 8 billion people in the world today. Could be a great place if we could just unleash it. Always with respect and dignity, respect for differences.
Yeah. Respect their differences. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Jan, that
And
might
that,
be a good one for you to pick up.
Respect their differences. Yeah, I think I'm with Stephen. I think it's a thread that kind of weaves its way through, I think, everything I do. It's always in my mind, in the background. Um, and and I love the word that you keep on using, Stephen, and that's respect. And I was thinking about that, because I think one is you speak to very much because you learned this, like, when you mentioned in your chapter, and that was respecting yourself, in your entirety. It's like respecting and honoring your body, and the fact that, when you're an athlete, you have, like, if you don't do that, then you get hurt, or you burn out, or you hit a wall. I mean, all of the above. And so, sort of honoring, I mean, I've been there and done really dumb things when I ran, like drinking no water because I wanted to have a really good time, and then paying for it at the end, like, because your brain isn't really thinking. So it starts, but you have to learn how to respect yourself,
yes.
and in the process of also respecting others, and either whatever comes first, or I think it's an ever evolving kind of process where you have a different sort of register on your head, where all of a sudden something happens in your life and you learn something from it, or it's an experience that you gather from, like when my dad died, and I really respected my mourning process. I respected myself on how I went through that process, knowing that it was individualized, that no one else's grief process was going to look the same as mine or whatever. But it also gave me a different type of respect for people when they have a loss. So there was a different register. So I think there's that overall kind of respect, and then there's that kind of deeper respect where you actually understand someone and you're like, oh, okay, I had something similar, and so I really need to, I can honor them for that reason, or for every reason, but I really get it.
Yeah,
I think,
it kind of. Go ahead, Stephen.
no, carry on.
I was just going to say, it just brings to mind the Buddhist tenet that try as you might throughout your entire lifetime, every interaction you have with the universe and with the other people tells you nothing about them. It only tells you more about yourself.
Mhm.
So in order to, really embrace that, not like bad news, because I mean, everybody does kind of want to figure the other guy out, right?
Yeah.
But if you just started out by loving yourself, respecting yourself, and admiring those things about you that you can't even name, and bring that to the other people who come into your space, what kind of a world would that be, and what would that look like? So I think the neat part of what you're both saying, and what I kind of like embraced early on was, if I really can't learn truthfully what it's like to walk in another man's moccasins, how can I bring what I learn about myself to the world in a powerful way to generate that kind of love in the world? And Jan, since I've known you, there are times when I've been really successful in being that message. And there have been times when I've really struggled to get to that level of authenticity, and it's just not available to me at that moment. I'm busy trying to produce some other kind of a result that I'm attached to. And that rarely works out well for anybody.
Yeah. I think it
Yeah.
was I think it was interesting for me in my sort of process over the past, like, let's 5 years, and is, and we talk a lot about this, and I think that was one of the key components of our group, Simply Live Simply, is the fact that we had the ability to listen to each other,
Yeah.
like to truly listen and be present for each other. And none of us went in with any particular agenda, like as far as our own agenda, except really being there for the other person. Like, there was no agenda. It wasn't like we went into the conversation thinking, oh, I really want this client, or this person has a lot of connections, and so I'm really going to get to know them. There was basically no agenda except for the fact that we liked being with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the beauty of it. It was just purely just establishing and enhancing relationships of a group of people that just felt so comfortable with each other. And then the relationships just got stronger and stronger, and that trust was built deeper and deeper. And it's absolutely again, a blessing and a privilege to be part of that group, because I think it's rare.
That's right.
Yeah, and even within that group, those moments are rare. What
Yeah,
you experience, in that you're expressing right now, that kind of, you know, increases in intensity and then collapses and then increases in intensity. In my experience, anyway, I'm talking about me now, aren't I? But the point is that that rarefied air, when people are just plain on the same wavelength and can literally complete a non um, um, some sentence that they all know already exists, but to get out on the skinny branches of
yeah,
examining human experience and being able to complete each other's thought in different words, but the same sentiment and mentality. I think that's what the word synergy actually brings to mind for me, where you do share thoughts at a level of co-creating something that's not existed before.
absolutely. And as you saying that, Bill, what stands out for me is the level of we all should be able to be comfortable with expressing or sharing our vulnerability. I think what the level that we go to, or the depth that we go to in terms of what we share, will depend on how strong the relationship is. Again, comes back to the trust and connection, sharing same values.
Yes.
But we don't do it enough in society at large. My own personal viewpoint is, and if we did, just to be able to stand up and accept, I think Jan alluded to this earlier, and yourself, but just to accept who we are, and also accept who we're not, because we're not good at everything. If we were all good at everything, we wouldn't need each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to just be mindful that we're not. And I have certain things that, gifts that I have, that I need to use and apply, and again, own them. You have, Jan has, everybody has. And there's certain things that I'm not so gifted at. My learning from my own journey was to get to a level of acceptance when I can speak as proudly about the ones that I'm not gifted at as I do about the ones that I am. And if I can give equal weight to both in terms of pride, then I've reached a level of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I like the thought. I like the feeling, and I also personally, I kind of experience noticing the things that I'm good at, not because I know what they are, but because people who I know, like, and trust actually acknowledge it, and thank me for something that I bring to the group that's of value. But it's never been really important for me to just bring value. It's always been important to exchange value, which essentially means this partnership in life has everything to do with us figuring out the things we don't know about each other by being willing to expose ourselves to those folks that
Yeah,
we know, like, and trust.
One of the things you just said, Bill, really made me smile because um, I think so often you said by what people like around you are sharing with you, and that's what you know. And it's really because how often we don't see ourselves, how others see us. And I'll just use this as so I've had so many people say to me, for years and years, you are just so kind. And I remember thinking to myself, like, isn't everybody kind? Like it just seemed like such an odd thing to say. I was like, I went through the world thinking basically everybody was kind, and that wasn't anything quote unquote special. And then all of a sudden, the more people who said it, and I thought to myself, well, I guess it's pretty rare because people notice it. Like, I don't know, but it was just so funny. It wasn't something I particularly thought of as, let's say, a strength or a gift. It was just something about who I was. And it's just so funny because I think often we do need people around us to kind of remind us of those things. Because, like we said, we get clouded or foggy as to, like, we get stuck. and we have to be reminded of those. And I think it's at any given point, it's learning what you need to move forward. Like, do you need someone who's your cheerleader, who's sitting there, like basically saying, you can do this, like, and then at other points, you really don't, like, you're fine. And I think it's kind of determining at any given point when you need, like, what kind of support you need.
I have a wonderful cheerleader. She says you can do this, and she also says you must stop doing this. She knows when to say it.
And you reply, yes, dear.
Yes, exactly. Bill has a wonderful cheerleader too.
I do.
So,
She
wonderful.
gave me one sentence 35 years ago when I decided to start my own business. She said, honey, just don't lose the house.
They might have got the same microchip, Bill.
It could be.
But just coming off again what we speaking about, and if I may just relate to the other parts of the chapter,
Yep.
it came as about when we're able to talk about ourselves, and it took me a long time to do this, but I thought, I was one of those males. I thought I was bulletproof. I thought I had to be bulletproof. I thought I was bulletproof. And I spoke about or wrote about in my chapter about two really pivotal moments was burnout and depression. And in both those instances, what it taught me, besides the lesson that I'll share with you a bit later, but and that I shared in the book, was, when we open up to our vulnerabilities, if I can use that word, we give people permission to do the same.
Yes.
It's amazing, and I just wish that in society we would just do that more often, because there's always, as Jan said now, there's someone else out there that relates to what you're speaking about.
I completely agree.
And then you discover that there's a lot more. Like, it does kind of make you feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Or think that you're actually able to handle it.
Yeah, I think the other interesting thing that's there is that that leadership, being the first one to set the usual weapons down on the ground and just laying yourself bare, being the example, allows other people to stand on the shoulders of that and really wow you and bring so much wonderfulness to your life.
Absolutely. If leaders say my people don't speak, you got to ask them, do you listen? Because generally, if you don't listen, they won't speak. So it is about leading self. Whether you're a leader in an organization, we all leaders. We don't necessarily have the desire to lead others, but we all are leaders. We got to lead ourselves, at least.
I mean, we're all leaders in our, because we're all part of, whatever in a group you're in, whether it be your family or so we all take, have somewhat of a, at some point or another, we all are leaders and take leadership roles in some aspect of that. And so you may not be a leader in a company, but you have a family and you have kids, you're their leader.
Yeah. As a parent, you're a leader.
That's right. And you set the example for them, or, in a relationship or with friends,
Yeah. So, absolutely. I think if you have an influence on other people, or in any form, way of form, you are a leader.
I love just letting that kind of set in and marinate. The words take on special meaning once they've actually hit the spot, and the response from the inside back out again. Again, all I ever seem to find are people in the world who are looking for someone to have the opportunity to express themselves in a different way. And so I think at the beginning of any conversation, you can establish yourself as the kind of person who asks a question, not to hear yourself ask a question, but to invite the other person to come out and play. And so I'm always challenging myself to be that guy. Um, and it's nice to be around other people who actually remind me of what my commitment to the world is. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. So, on to some more things about your chapter, if you will, Steve.
Yeah. So, well, the other two key parts of my chapter were, going through burnout,
Yes.
and that was probably when at the height of me thinking I'm bulletproof, and just going, and going, and I think as people do, you go. I think it was something innate in me, because of my upbringing, because of being maybe involved in the sporting world, that you just go, and you just push yourself further and you push yourself further. But there has to be a point where you rest, and then especially in the business world, uh, we just push on because we feel we have to hit this target that we set ourselves. I think we push on, and Stephen did that. We feel again, you have to hit it tomorrow, um, and so you push yourself, and eventually you get to a point where if you don't listen to your body, the universe will, there will be some. The universe will either tell you, but there will something will come and tell you, because I discovered that we're not bulletproof. My ego took a big hint, but that was that's what I discovered. And I went to see a psychologist. I was in a bad way. I went to see a psychologist, and she said to me, she was quite harsh. She said, "You're near burnout, and you're about a month from being hospitalized." And she was direct with me, and I appreciate that and value that, especially now. And she said to me, "All these people that you work so hard because you told me you have to you have responsibility to the people that work for you, you have a responsibility to your family." She said, "How good are you going to be to all these people that you tell me you take responsibility for, feel responsible to? How good are you going to be to them from a hospital bed?" And that hit me right between the eyes. And I thought, wow, yeah, actually, you better take care of yourself in order to take care of them.
She was
And it's a
speaking
big,
to you in your language, wasn't she?
mm-hmm. But I never listened to it. I listened to her, but it took me a while. It took me years after that. I became more conscious of it, but it took me a while for that to become the new kind of habit or way of life for me, because I was so used to doing it the other way.
Yeah.
To changing habits, changing my mindset, changing the way of thinking, and again, in service of others. It's not looking after yourself that for yourself, of course, for yourself, but it's not looking after yourself so everybody can say, "Oh, you look so healthy," and so on. It's looking after yourself in service of those that you care for.
So important.
And that was important on that score. So it taught me also, which tied into the name of the chapter, was slow down to speed up. And I've actually tried it. And the times where I have taken my foot off the pedal, allowed myself the time to actually focus on something that I'm doing and put everything else aside, I was able to do that task a lot quicker and with more quality than trying to rush through it. So it's something I really live by at the moment, is if you've got important things to do, just select for a day, select 2 or 3 of them, and just focus on that. You actually find that, well, I've experienced that you free up time by focusing on those. you free up time to do the other things because you get so focused. Take out the distractions. Focus for an hour or two on what you need to do on something that if you didn't take out the distractions or focus would have taken you 4 hours to do, you now do it in 2. So you free up time by doing that, by slowing down to speed up.
I like it. I do
It's
have
not
another.
easy.
Yeah, yeah. It's simple but not easy, right?
Exactly. Love it. I love that you said that. The term I use often.
Yes. So here's what's presenting itself to me. I totally get you as a really, really thoughtful human being, that you're artful in terms of how you live and you're artful in terms of how you navigate your life. And I'm just kind of curious, was there anything that you could look back on now after you wrote the chapter and completed it, after all your edits, when you finally said, that's it? Did it leave you with something present that you did not possess before you started the chapter? And if so, what was it, in your opinion?
Yeah, it kind of affirmed to me that actually just be yourself. Just be yourself. Okay.
Mm,
And don't try and fit in with the rest of the world, and don't go in with the mindset, I need to go in because this is to this, whatever it is, whatever environment, go in because if I go in like this, then they will accept me or appreciate me. My mindset is now going in with not being arrogant, is just go in as yourself, okay, with humility, and there will be people there. They will just let them decide if they accept you or not.
yeah.
It's not my decision, because as soon as I try and show up for them, okay, I'm not being authentic, and they will pick it up. Okay. And those people then that accept me for someone that I'm not, that relationship will not enjoy any longevity at all. So, but again, Bill, as you said, it's simple. It's not easy. I have to be conscious of it. I am more conscious of it. So it becomes easier, but it's not easy.
Mm, yeah. The rigors of discipline never are. However, they give you a tough now for an easy later. You know the
Yeah. And then, Bill, if I can, just not only writing the chapter, but sharing it with Jan and the 5 other co-authors or colleagues that you'll meet, is this whole environment made me think, it gave me the confidence and the permission, even more so, to just be who you are, because the people in this environment accepted me for who I am. And it's so liberating. It's wonderful. So it
yeah.
wasn't just writing the chapter. It wasn't only writing the chapter. It was writing the and just the group that we have and getting their feedback.
Yeah. I love that, and what I hear you saying is more that not allowing you to be who you are, that they perceived who you are, but to show up like a blank slate every time and find out who you are today.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what friendship is all about, right?
sure.
And that's a great experience to share, that the act of writing this book together and collaborating allowed you to experience maybe a little bit different kind of friendship, a kinship on
Mhm.
this spaceship Earth, as we call it, hurtling along at who knows how quickly, but every once in a while you do need to slow down. You do need to take a moment and see what's actually present here, and appreciate it, and appreciate yourself for being there.
Yeah, and I think everybody in the group reminds each other every time we meet about that.
Yeah.
It's just, even the conversations we had today, without saying it directly, you must slow down and so on. You just feel it. Somebody says, oh, I'm not here yet, I haven't got, then everybody's, oh, it's okay, it's no problem. It's that constant, you just sit in that environment where it's okay, but we let it can't be okay forever, because then you probably become just a procrastinator. So, but it's okay. It's that finding that balance between just allowing it to be here and trust the process, but then we also have a commitment to each other to write a book. So there will be a deadline. It's not an infinite journey.
Yeah.
And I think that balance exists, but the balance exists because it's created unconsciously by the group.
Yeah, you're reminding me of some old thoughts, which are, if you want to experience a really great life, alter work's experience to play. And the definition of play in my world is to give and take without intent. No, nothing
Yes.
to win, nothing, nothing to get, but just to be in the present moment, sharing whatever there is in that moment with the folks around you and just loving every second of it.
Absolutely. And what happens will happen. Will come out of it. If you go in, I think, as you said, with the expectations of something in return, generally you're going to make it about you.
Yeah, and we know how that works out, don't we?
No. Yes, we do.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me the privilege to be able to listen to your words and then paraphrasing them in what I receive them as, and then kind of validating or expanding on what your message is. I'm wondering, is there any other message today that you want to deliver the world? Here we are talking to each other half a continent apart. I mean, half of a sphere apart. You're in South Africa. We're in North America. And you're going through some, just to be here this time of day for you is pretty heroic. Thank you.
And my bedtime is not that, it's still only 7 p.m. 1 more hour, I'm gone.
Oh, okay, good.
Excuse me. Sorry. No, thank you for inviting me, and Jan for inviting me onto your podcast and onto your show, and just for the interest that you show, because it's a strong message. It's it's messages, not that we would like to share with the world, and because of what we've experienced and the value that we've got from it, or the benefit. So, in answer to your question, my message to everybody is, just step back. It's not easy. Take that deep dive into yourself, and find out more about yourself. It's a tough journey, but it's exceptionally liberating. And when you do that, you will show up better for others.
I love it. And to do that, you need to slow down just a minute.
Yeah. And just be okay with who you are and who you're not.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Great message. Thank you. Jan, do you have any completer pieces that you'd like to put on today?
No, it just seems like we've just wrapped it up in a nice little flower or bow.
But Jan, really, thank you so much for being you, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm way past, the holding back. I absolutely love you, Jan. I always will. I declare this as many times as necessary. Sometimes it's a reminder of me to re-examine what I mean by love, but where you're concerned, I really do love how I feel when I think about you, and that makes me feel love. So that's where that comes from.
That's beautiful.
In the
I can understand.
In the meantime, I can see you coming back to have a cameo spot here every so often, Steve. You're more than welcome to come join us. And as you can see, we have a very scripted hour of getting together and saying exactly the same things. No, it's not like that at all. We go where the spirit moves us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see that, I feel it, and and that's what's so wonderful. I had no expectations or idea of what this was going to look like this evening. And thank you so much, Bill, for you, because I don't know you, but you have you seem to have a way of making, or what I've experienced this evening is you seem to have a way of making people feel comfortable. You have a very, a nature that I don't know, I never felt at one point did I ever feel uncomfortable here. I kind of, even in that moment of silence, I was thinking, should I chat? And then I thought, no, Bill's got this. That's the feeling that you gave me. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for your trust. Your trust is what caused our opportunity to relate to each other as we have. I appreciate that, and invited my trust, and here we are. Not too shabby for 1 hour together, huh?
Yeah, it's are we just chatting? No.
That's all it is. People talking. So Jan,
but it's these moments that are just so special because I think we get caught up in the intensely fast pace that the world operates today, and that's the way it is. It does. We need to intentionally slow down. In like moments like this, we forget we're just going so quickly, and then I think that's why everybody appreciates moments like this. It's testimony to how fast the world is going, because people go, we see this is so special, but this is what we should be doing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you like, we can pause for about 10 minutes here, and we can be mindful, or 10 seconds, not 10 minutes, but, and just be mindful of those things that are to be mindful of at the rate of speed that we normally operate. And then Jan, if you would be so kind after that to give everybody our weekly invitation, that would be fantastic. Does that work?
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Amen.
So thank you, everybody, for listening. So each week we close with, please connect with someone, take a moment out of your day to let someone in your life know how much you appreciate them and how much you value them. Text them, call them, send them a message. And maybe it's somebody who you know, and maybe it's somebody who you're just meeting, and you just say, I appreciate the fact that you're here. Maybe it's the checkout person, or maybe it's, your postal person or something. Just take a moment to let people know that they matter.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, we are lighting the candle, a world that works. We have just completed a marvelous hour with my partner in empowerment, Jan Jeremias, and our new lovely friend, Steve Levy. I am blown away by the quality of human beings that are out there. And it gives me juice to go through the rest of the week, which may or may not have the same kind of rewards. But looking forward to seeing you all again next week this time. In the meantime, God bless all of you, and bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to Lighting the Candle, a world that works, part of the Xvadio podcast network. You can catch every episode of Lighting the Candle, as well as the rest of the network, at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts.